Hello, welcome to Pecan Corner. I'm Tina, and today I'm going to clean out my pantry, but I'm also going to show you how I prevent weevils and pantry moths and how to get rid of them forever. It's been about 3 years now since I cleaned out my pantry, and while it's definitely a mess, as you can see, and behind all those stacks of containers, there's there's all kinds of more containers, but I've got things kind of out of whack where I can't tell what's what and what's where. But I don't expect to find any weevils or pantry moths. I have to clean it out to be sure there's no mice too, and we're going to talk about keeping them out of our food as well. You know, when you live in old houses, you can take a lot of steps to keep mice out, but once in a while one's going to get in. With pantry moths and weevils, what my grandmother always said was that you don't get those. Those come in the flour, or they come in the grains. The eggs come in your flours and in the grains, and then they hatch out. And so our secret is to prevent them from hatching out, and in case we're unable to prevent them from hatching out, to prevent them from moving into any other part of the pantry or into any other kinds of foods. So I'm going to start by emptying my pantry here, and then I'll be back. Alrighty, now then, I've emptied and washed one shelf, and now I'm going to empty and wash the second one. I have moved all my stuff out of this half of the pantry. The other one, different door. I'll tackle that one separately from this one. I still have to clean it the same way, do the same things to it, but I want to get this done because you may keep your flour things separated from your canned goods, and if you do, you have even double an opportunity to keep things clean. I have pulled out everything and set it here out of my way. You'll notice that I've got everything in these jars. The secret to this is, well, I'll tell you that in a minute. It's not just the jars. The one thing the jars do that's important is if you do have, if your method that I'm going to show you doesn't work. I've had a couple of times with certain organic flours and an organic cornmeal that had weevils anyway, but they were contained because they were in an airtight container, and so the weevils could not escape from that and get into my other foods. And my other foods then were also protected from anything outside being able to get into them. Even mice won't get into these kinds of things. So you're really well protected. And as you can see, I reuse. I've gotten to where I'll actually pay a little bit more to buy something that comes in a container that's clear. I have to be able to see things, and so that way, my friends gave us these anasazi beans. Well, they're great kept in that container, but you can buy them at the. These are inexpensive containers I got at the grocery store. I've got my cornmeal in there. I think these were, $3 or $4, but it was well worth the investment. Also look at garage sales for any kind of clear or translucent container that I can use. This is ice cream or sherbet. For a while there, I bought sherbet deliberately at one Surefine brand so that I could get these containers to put things in. So that's pickles. Pickle jars are great. So that's my first step in protecting my foods. Okay, so this next step is, and if you've had an infestation of them. Well, let me go get it. If you've had an infestation of them before, you really need to work hard to be sure that every crevice is cleaned. And so you want to scrub in those crevices with a brush, and then bring your vacuum out and even vacuum in them if you've had a problem with that. Any kind of a brush will do fine. Just get along those cracks and crevices. And then I'm not going to vacuum today, but you want to, if you've had an infestation of pantry moths or weevils, you want to get them all cleaned out before you start. Now, once that's done and you've vacuumed it, all I had to do was sweep it out. I did find a few little mouse pellets, so there has been mice in here, and so I've got to also, once I clean out this other side, I've got to see if I can't mouse proof this by making sure there's no holes where they can get in here. But the mice were not able to get into my food. Was all protected here. There was only one item that they were able to get, and that was some pasoli that I had not bothered to put into a container, and so they were able to nibble, gnaw through the package, and they ate the corn, and that's all that they got to eat. They didn't contaminate anything else. I'm going to wash my jars, the outsides of them, with a cloth with some bleach in it to be sure that they're nice and clean and I'm not contaminating anything when I put things back. But I want to show you what else I'm doing here. Just dealing with the pantry moths themselves, and the weevils, and even this will even prevent spiders, believe it or not. Plain old dishwashing soap, just any kind. I use Blue Dawn because I think it's the best, and I actually water it down in a small bottle to keep at the sink to use, so that because it's so concentrated, and that seems to help me avoid wasting it. But I've got a pretty strong mixture of Dawn in here in my bowl, and all I'm going to do, let me put this together so I won't have to hold it while I'm doing this. Alright, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly squeeze this out. I want to leave it fairly wet, because what I want to do is when I clean it, I also want to leave a deposit of soap on everything. I'm going to wipe down every surface here. Even the ceiling, the underside of the upper shelf. And this, believe it or not, I learned this in the working at the post office. The carriers there tell people if there are spiders making nests in their mailboxes, the carriers actually carry around a little spray bottle full of dish soap and water, and they just spray the insides of the mailboxes, and that actually will keep spiders out really good for a long time. They won't want to make their nest there for whatever they will spin their webs there. So this is a good, and it's not toxic to you or your family, so you're not putting poisons around where your food is, and it makes it real helpful in a pantry. Don't ever get big spiders in my pantry, but you can get those annoying little bitty things, that kind of leave a little web here and there, and it's not pleasant. So I'm going to go ahead and finish washing this down, and when I rinse, I'll rinse it with soapy water on this bottom here. After I clean it good, I'll rinse it with more soapy water so that that soap residue dries on there, and I'll be back. Alright, now it's all clean, and I'm going to wait and let it dry before I put anything else into it. Okay, I'm back, and I'm going to show you my secret now. My secret is whole bay leaves. The airtight containers alone won't, as I said earlier, won't keep things out. But if you have it in an enclosed space and you put bay leaves in, this is my flour canister, and I've dropped, I've got about 5 or 6 bay leaves in this size canister, and it will keep those weevils and those pantry moths, for the eggs that are in our stuff, it'll keep them from being able to hatch. So it does a good job. When I first got married and had a house of my own, and I found weevils, I was just appalled. I was just horrified. And my grandmother said, no, they come in the flour. You know, it's nothing that you did wrong. And so I think that she's the one that told me about this. And I've used this ever since. And ever since I've had, as long as I maintain properly and don't get lazy and forget to put my stuff in containers and put my bay leaves in it, I do fine. The only thing I've ever had trouble with that the bay leaves didn't work for is certain corn products and certain organic products. But even then, as I said earlier, as long as it's in a good sealed container, even if they do hatch out, they can't infest the rest of my pantry. Now, other people have suggested freezing everything for 24 hours before you put it out, and that's a good idea. And if you can do that, that's really great. You could also microwave things if there's no metal in the packaging, or put them into a container that doesn't have metal and microwave them for about a minute, and that also should kill anything. Anyway, this works great. I didn't lose anything. I've tried it. The bay leaves will even work in a good quality Ziploc bag. So before I had accumulated enough containers, you know, this used to have jerky in it, and I got it from a store when they sold down, until I had accumulated enough containers that I could see to use, I used heavy-duty Ziploc bags, and those are effective for the with the bay leaves. But as I said earlier, they're not effective against mice, which these kinds of containers seem to be. So you know, it just prevents waste, and it actually prevents work in the long run. In my blog post about this, several commenters or a couple of commenters noted that it would be too hard for them to clean out their pantries because they had so much stuff. And as you can see, you know, I had a pretty big pantry too. Well, I had to do mine because our diet's changing, but at the same time, it's worthwhile to take a day or two and really do it right. And then once you get it that way, as you saw at the beginning, even though I had a kind of a disorganization involved, I didn't have any bugs. And the reason I didn't have the bugs is because I had been dutiful about being sure that I put things into containers. So I hope that this will help you. It's just one more way that we can preserve our foods and protect our families, and not have to use a sifter to home ec teachers never did tell us the real reason for sifters, but the real reason for sifters were invented was to sift the bugs out of the flour before you used it. We don't want to have to resort to that, and especially in prepping, you know. So what I did is I bought a great big container of bay leaves, and they seem to work almost forever. I usually, every time I empty a container, and it ends up being about once every year or so, I'll switch out the bay leaves, or I'll throw a couple of new bay leaves on top of the old ones that are in there, and they don't add any flavor of their own or any odor or anything like that. And so it seems to do nothing but keep those weevils from sprouting. And so anyway, I hope that this will be helpful to you, and I appreciate you stopping by my pantry today, and I hope that you'll stop by again. Thanks a bunch. Bye bye.